This is my 1935 Velocette MAC. And here it is. Now, it really doesn't get much more beautiful than a 1930s Velocette motorbike. There's just something about the curves and luscious blonde hair. I mean, there's just something about the curves and the beauty of a Velocette. So I've had a few motorbikes in my 37 years of life, but I've always loved 1930s bikes more than any other. I mean, possibly late 20s bikes, possibly early 40s bikes, but for me, it has to be the sprung front forks. It's got to be the rigid back end, and those two things they are what make the look of a beautiful vintage motorbike. So the engine on my 1935 Velo is the original 350cc engine. Now, I am no expert on Velocettes, but I'm pretty sure the Velocette MAC was also available in 500. I was originally looking for a 500, but this came up for the right price, and it was very local to me, so I couldn't say no. But to be honest with you, it goes really, really, really well, and I don't think I want to go much faster than I do on this bike. It sort of sits quite happily at 50, 55. Unfortunately, I don't know a massive amount of history of the bike. What I do know is it used to race. So the chap that I bought it off, who was a very friendly chap, he told me that the bike does have a racing history, and it's got a number registered to it from when it did race, which I can't remember what number it was now, but it's on the sort of record of racing Velocettes, which is really, really, really cool. And obviously on the tank, you've got the 1926, 28 and 29 TT winners, which is also really, really cool. Now, I'll be honest with you, I have done absolutely nothing to this bike since I bought it. It was already in sort of ready to go condition. No, tell a lie, I did put a new plug in it and give it an oil change. That is literally all I have done to the bike, and then I've just rode it and enjoyed it. Now, today I went to Stamford Hall in Lutterworth in Leicestershire to a show called Founders Day, which I'm sure some of you may have been to. It was a fantastic show. I didn't take many photos, but yeah, it was a fantastic show, and that was the furthest ride I've ever done on this bike. Founders Day from my house in Leicestershire is about, I think it's about 15 miles to the show. 15 miles there, 15 miles back. So it did a good 30-mile run. It happily sat, like I said, at 55 mile an hour. My dad has a Triumph Bonneville, a new Triumph Bonneville, and yeah, I mean, he was obviously going slow behind me, but he said that the Velocette looked like it was going really well, so I was happy with how it performed. So let's have a look at the starting procedure on this old beauty. Now, some old British bikes have a advance and retard unit on the handlebars, which you need to advance or retard when starting the engine. This Velocette MAC does not have one of those. So the main things you need to remember, now this is probably the most important, is this little brass lever here is your oil. Now, if you don't turn your oil on, you're going to run your engine dry and seize your engine. So that is rule number one. Always remember to turn your oil on. And the best way to check that your oil is pumping, if you're unsure, is when the bike is running, you've got a little pipe there and oil should be spurting out of that when the engine is running. So as well as turning your oil on, you have to turn your fuel on, which is this little button here which says push. That is fuel on. Now there's a little inline filter there, but what you have to do now is tickle the carburettor, which I'm sure many of you older boys will be familiar with. Some people say you have to pump the little piston, whatever it's called, that. I think you can just hold it, and then that allows fuel to bleed through the system, and then you will see eventually, there we go, fuel firing out of anywhere it can. I think there is a little hole that the fuel's supposed to fire out of. So that is then ready to start. Now, anyone that has had an old bike before will know that they don't always start first kick. Sometimes it's second, sometimes it's the 30th kick. So let's give it a go. And then to stop the bike, if it doesn't cut out, which it does sometimes, you've got this, which is a decompression lever, and that stops the bike nicely. And once you have been on your lovely ride around the countryside and you get home, you must remember to turn your oil and your fuel off. I have forgotten to do both of these things once, and a few days later I did come back to a larger than normal puddle of oil on the floor. But you old motorbike owners will know British bikes do like to leave their spot. So in terms of anything else to tell you, you've got this really modern, loud, ridiculous bell to warn people that you're coming. I'm not sure they'd hear that then. And then in terms of your electrics, you've got your lights, which I think you've got two settings for high and low beam. You've got your little amp meter on there, and then you've got your speedo. Now I think the speedo may have been added. The way it's mounted doesn't look completely original. It may be, I'm not 100% sure on that. And then this, do you know what, I don't actually know what that is. Maybe that's your, oh, I think that's your high and low beam, so that must be sort of side light and headlight on the switch. And obviously you don't have much in terms of a rear light. You've got this teeny little rear light with a teeny weeny little number plate light, and then you've got a reflector just for a little bit more added safety. Then you've got your handy little toolbox storage case, which you can get your sandwiches in and your little bottle of fluids, and yeah, your oil tank, engine. What you got down there? Is it a dynamo or a magneto? I think it's a little dynamo and a little regulator by the looks of things. Your tiny little carb, which I presume is an amyl carb, I think. Yeah, you can just about work out amyl on there. And then I think in here you have your contact points. Ooh, yeah, they're in there. And you remove that to adjust the clutch. The clutches on Velocettes are notoriously a bit awkward, but this actually works beautifully, so we don't worry about that. And then you got your battery, of course, in there. And that is pretty much it. And that is pretty much everything on my old Velocette. But yeah, I absolutely love it. I love a 1930s motorbike. I love the sound, I love the feel. There is nothing better than taking it for a ride down the countryside on your own and just taking in that lovely smell of a cow poo or whatever else you smell in the countryside. But I honestly absolutely love it. I do have a couple of other bikes. I've got a BSA, which does feature in one of my other videos. I am going to do a nice full video about my BSA because that is a really cool bike. I've also got a 1970s Norton, which used to belong to my dad, and I've also got a Lambretta, which is a completely different story. But thank you for watching, and tune in for the next video. Cheers. Right, that's another video done. Let's start the old bike up, and right, walking home it is.